Hey, this is Digital by Computing. Today we're going to talk about what the role of a service delivery manager is in IT. So let's talk about that right after this. So my name is Emilio. I work in the IT industry and we're going to talk about a service delivery manager. You may have heard that term. You may have heard the term SDM. What does it mean? What is the role of an SDM? A service delivery manager, essentially as the name suggests, is the manager that is responsible for delivering of the IT service to a particular company or a business. An SDM is responsible for the operations and services of an IT system or systems in a company. They want to ensure that the uptime of those services is always consistent in order to provide a proper service to the client. A company may have what's called an IT manager. So if you work in a larger sort of a company, you may have an IT team and then an IT manager above that. Essentially, an SDM, a service delivery manager, is partly an IT manager, but could be a manager for multiple companies. So an SDM may be responsible for delivering services to multiple companies. Now, an SDM could be talking to people in a company that already have IT people working there. So an SDM could be a relationship manager with an IT manager for a company and essentially provides them updates on how SLAs are going, etc. Or they could be the person that is literally solely in charge of everything on that computer system. Anything that is IT related for a company, the SDM, the service delivery manager, would be responsible for. So they will manage teams of IT professionals, a whole range of IT professionals, from the system admins and engineers to your network guys, your security guys, to even database guys. So they will have a good team of people working underneath them. They're not the person who necessarily goes and does the technical work themselves. They have a group of people underneath them that go and do that technical work for them. And then these technical people report back up to the SDM and let them know how things have been going, how the SLAs are, what the work is, the status of their jobs, whether the systems are up and healthy, all those sort of things. So the SDM will be constantly liaising with these technicians to make sure that the work is done. He will give them tasks to do, whether it's delegation of work, assigning them tickets in some sort of a ticket management system, and carrying out any resourcing requirements to make sure that the technicians are available in certain places at certain times to do certain types of jobs. They will establish and maintain IT procedures. So these is IT policies and procedures that are put in place to make sure that the IT systems run properly and that there are standards in place on how things are done. Okay, so they're going to be working together with the technicians to create documentation, create some standards, create procedures about how things are done. How do you build this? How do you rack this? How is the network need to be configured? All those sort of things. So it's just really the procedures overall about how the IT systems are going to run and function. The SDM will be heavily involved with vendor management. They'll be dealing with third parties, with stakeholders, and essentially is the gap, the relationship between the technicians and perhaps the client. So an SDM who may be doing work for a company is that conduit between perhaps the management of this particular business and how the IT is going as a whole. How are the technicians going? So it's dealing with those relationships. They'll also be involved with talking to those third-party vendors, to talking to the suppliers. If they don't manage the routers, for example, and they're managed by a service provider, they're going to be the guys who are dealing with these third-party guys to make sure that the services are up and running. Meeting client agreed SLAs. These are service level agreements. So what this is agreements that are put in place generally by the client and the SDM on when things should be done and how things should be done and how the time that it takes to achieve certain things. So the client may say, well, my SLA for my server patching, I want all of my server patching to be done 100% every single month. So all of my servers need to be patched 100% of the time. So that is the SLA that is put in place. Perhaps your client that the SDM works with will report to management, to the senior management, and say, well, look, we're going to agree that the IT department managed by the SDM is going to make sure that all the servers are patched every single month to 100% standard. So that is now the SDM's responsibility to meet that SLA. Obviously, he will have his team of technicians underneath him executing the patching to make sure that all the servers are patched and that they're patched successfully, all of them 100%. Management of IT budgets and ordering decisions. So an IT manager, or in this case, a service delivery manager, will have a hold or closely hold to some sort of a budget in IT. Now, this depends on the type of company that the SDM is working with. In some scenarios, the company may need to be working, the SDM may need to be working with the company's CFO, a chief financial officer, or a finance manager or director to try to establish what are the IT budgets in place. What is your CapEx? What is your OpEx? Your capital expenditure, your operations expenditure. How much money do you put aside every financial year for IT? So this gives the IT manager, the SDM, a bucket of money to play with. He doesn't want to go and request, 5 new servers if he knows that there's no IT budget in place. So he's going to be working closely. He needs to know how much money is available. He needs to perhaps request services around that budget. All right. And once the budgets are approved, once they've got that money available to be able to go and spend money, then they're going to be responsible for doing the ordering of equipment. All right. So again, this could be delegated sometimes to your technicians if you don't have, if an SDM doesn't have the skills. But in a lot of instances, the SDM will be responsible for dealing with these third-party vendors, dealing with your server and your storage and your network providers, working on quotes and ordering the equipment, all based around the available funds in the IT budgets. Incident capacity, risk, and change management. These are 4 different types of management types that the SDM should be good at, or at least have a good understanding of. So we're looking at incidents. These are as things happen, right? So when things go wrong, when a system goes down, it's reported as an incident. There could be a ticketing system behind that, where a ticket or a job or a task is logged in a system as an incident. My server has gone down. That is now become an incident. And the SDM is now responsible for dealing with that incident, whether he deals with it himself, but most of the time he will delegate that to his technicians to deal with that incident. Likewise, with the reporting, he may need a report on what those incidents look like at the end of every month, how long they took to accomplish based on perhaps an SLA. If there's an SLA agreement for your incident count, for example. Capacity management. So we're looking at capacity and operations. What is the state of your environment? What is the capacity look like? Do you need to expand your capacity? Do you need to buy new servers? Do you need to expand your storage? Do you have sufficient ports on your switches? Are your virtual machines running out of space? Do they have enough RAM? All of these questions around capacity and general operations of your environment, making sure that the systems are optimally running currently, but that you have enough capacity in place for the next 6, 12, 5 years. This all comes together with your budgets, making sure you've got budgets in place where you know that your capacity will need to increase. So this is you dealing with technicians, the SDM dealing with technicians to make sure that the capacity of the infrastructure that they're managing is adequate and that they can expand it if they need to. Risk management, as the name suggests, it's managing risk. What are the risks involved with doing certain things? This could be around incidents. If they need to fix a particular incident that's happened, is there a risk involved around that? Capacity, is there a risk involved around that? We're going to be talking about change, but if you need to do a particular change, is there a risk involved around that? Verify and validate what those risks are, because in some instances, if the risk is too great, you may not want to do, the SDM may not have the approval from the business to do that particular change to a system because the risk is too great. So you always have to mitigate that risk to what you're going to accomplish. And then finally, we've got our change management. So this is generally what I would say is changes to your core infrastructure, changes to software, anything that is major that could impact the business. It could impact the production of the business. So for example, if I need to restart my primary mail server, my Exchange server, for example, I can't just restart that in the middle of the day. I may not be able to even restart that after hours because staff are still accessing their mail. So I'm going to put that within a change management window, have it approved by a change, committee if the company has some sort of a group of people who approve changes. But it needs to be approved for us to be able to then restart an Exchange server, for example, with approval from the business and allowing for that outage. So management of all these changes. When there are major upgrades, they need to be put under changes as well. They may also have involvement in project management. So not necessarily themselves being a project manager, but being across what projects are in the pipeworks for that particular company that they are doing the IT management for. So they could be working together with IT managers or delegating themselves as a project manager, but having the technicians work on the projects themselves, but knowing what is coming down the line. So you've got BAU, which is your business as usual tasks, keeping the lights on. And then you've got your projects, so things that are going to expand, new systems, major upgrades, things like that. So you're going to be working in tandem between a BAU and a project task. So project management would generally come into that position also. So that is my brief summary of what a service delivery manager does. So along with all of this, they're going to be very, very busy with writing reports. They could be responsible for writing monthly reports, for writing, we talked about all these different risk management. They could be doing incident reports, risk reports, when a particular thing goes down, a report to find out, well, what happened, how are we going to fix this in future, what are we going to put in place so that this doesn't happen again. And there's a lot of reports that an SDM may be writing on an ongoing basis around every single item that we talked about earlier. So that is my summary. I hope you found it helpful. Feel free to comment. I'd love you to comment if you agree, if you disagree, if you have any other thoughts about what an SDM does, or if anything that I listed an SDM shouldn't be doing. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like this video, it'd be great, and we'll see you next time. So if you found that video helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel, Digital by Computing, just on the button there for more videos.